She covers the LA Sparks and the Los Angeles Lakers. And she is a sports host and reporter for Spectrum LA. Welcome, Nikki Kay, onto Hoopsology. Welcome, Nikki.
Oh, thanks so much, Matt and Justin. I am thrilled and honored to be joining you guys.
Thanks for making the time. Really appreciate it. On our radar, originally, we were going to just chop it up with you about the Los Angeles Sparks, which we'll get to because I think they're a very fascinating team. They've gone through just a lot of changes this season. But first, there's some breaking news that happened within a couple of days of the recording of this podcast, and that's with the Los Angeles Lakers, them hiring a new head coach, JJ Redick. So, just from your perspective, you cover this team, and there's been a lot of conjecture as to really what went down with this coaching process. Can you kind of explain, kind of as best you can, kind of the story of JJ Redick being hired? Was there other candidates involved? Was JJ and Dan Hurley the number one choices, or were there other candidates in play? Because I'm just curious with JJ Redick not having coaching experience, and then you also covered the W. And my mind goes to thinking Becky Hammond every time there's a coaching vacancy. Where in terms of the Lakers, what were they looking for in their new head coach?
Well, right. It's just been so intriguing from the get-go, right? Because for weeks we've been hearing speculation about with JJ's name at the forefront. And then all of a sudden, I believe it was two and a half weeks ago that Danny Hurley's name popped up, in the words of Adrian Wojnarowski, who everyone, he's as close to God as when it comes to being a verified source. And, Hurley was out in Los Angeles, and that following Monday announced he was not going to be accepting the job. And so then it was that kind of awkward limbo phase of speculation. Where would the Lakers turn next? And about late last week, we heard that JJ was going to be the one. I believe he was offered the job on Thursday. And just in listening to his press conference, which happened Monday of the week we are speaking, with Rob Pelinka sitting side by side, it was clear that, they wanted a fresh approach, an eager mind, and someone who knew first and foremost how to communicate with this new wave of players in the NBA, and also had the respect of LeBron James, which we've seen first and foremost in their podcast they host together. So yes, it's different. It's a zag, so to speak. But I would say in the press conference that JJ hosted yesterday, he won the presser, so to speak. And we've heard quite a few head coach introduction pressers here in LA for the Los Angeles Lakers when you think about Frank Vogel, Darvin Ham, and now JJ welcoming into the fold in the past couple of years.
So speaking of that press conference, there was a little bit of criticism in terms of kind of his demeanor, but I think it's refreshing. I mean, all the time we media types and fans, their number one criticism is why just be honest, just show their reflective selves. And here you have a person doing that, and all of a sudden there's criticisms from the media. How is he going to navigate just the media landscape within LA as time goes on? Just the pitfalls of this being a head coach, right? A 3-game losing streak, or a player gets hurt, or there might be something that comes up that in a big media market garners more attention than if he were to coach like the Hornets or even the Pelicans. So how do you think he'll deal with the kind of more intense media landscape in Los Angeles?
And listen, it's interesting. I think I'm the first to drink Kool-Aid as a sports fan in general, in terms of being excited about what a new era or a new chapter can feel like. I'm also, as a media member, the first to kind of roll my eyes at, coach speak and what you hear time and time again. But I think when you look at JJ and the world he's coming from, also the role he's created for himself as an analyst in media, talking about a sport he played, at the highest of levels, not just in the NBA, but as a Duke athlete, I think his brand is incredibly self-aware and incredibly intelligent. And I would expect that to translate into his approach as a coach. And I don't think him as the meticulously competitive and hyper, I don't want to say perfectionist, but you get the sense that he is incredibly detail oriented. I don't think he would accept this job without kind of, doing those chess ahead of chess moves to kind of see what could happen down the line, what could be the worst pitfall, what could be the criticism he faces. So I would expect, with the way he's approached everything in his career to this point, that he's preparing for the for the unexpected, which is counterintuitive. But I think that if there's two things that are going for him favorably in this constant perennial hot seat as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, it's that he is very aware, very bright, and very meticulous.
Nikki, I want to go back to what you said about him winning the presser, which I would agree with. And I'm by no means a Lakers fan, but I was impressed by the presser, but just wanted to get your opinion on why that is that you think, in spite of some criticism being thrown at him, which maybe we just get that as a side effect inevitably when there's a big media event. Why do you think overall that he did win that presser?
I think to your point, Matt, like anything with the Los Angeles Lakers from a national perspective is going to be going hand in hand with, criticism, as you said, and attention for all the good and bad that brings. But here, local media seemed to walk away refreshed and excited from it. And I think it was kind of, to some effect, he came across very polished, but also on the other hand, he was presenting as self-aware, and I think that perfectionist element shone through. And I was speaking with my dad this morning, who is a diehard LA sports fans, all teams. And he was like, it's kind of giving Sean McVay, albeit different paths to the positions they're in, but these young, overeager, detail-oriented minds, both kind of thrust into such a bright spotlight. And although Sean ascended through the coaching ranks, think about the way JJ kept himself in the league. He wasn't really supposed to have an NBA career. And because he was over-prepared, because he studied, because he was so astute to how to keep himself in the game, he stayed. And he had this longevity. So I think that kind of was communicated in the way he was responding to questions. At first, I was very like, oh no, here we go again. And then by the end of the presser, I was like, okay, I see it. So only time will tell, right?
No, that's a great point you bring up. And, if you think about it, it's not a perfect parallel, but there's a lot of similarities to Steve Kerr and the route that he took. Obviously Steve Kerr with more GM experience and things like that, but some parallels there with playing
the very natural parallel. Yes, absolutely.
Wanted to also bring it up because I know it's kind of the elephant in the room with this presser. There was a lot of attention over the F-bombs that were dropped. And I think it's a bit frustrating because from what I saw, actually at the tail end of that statement and at the heart of that statement was JJ's focus on the job at hand, which is why I overall liked his answer to that question. What did you see in terms of reaction to that? And maybe more importantly, how do you think players in that locker room and Los Angeles fans react to that answer?
Honestly, I think the F-bombs made people even more fired up because because that showed a little bit of rawness and realness to a person we're so used to seeing so polished. And I think that in today's day and age, with the generation of stars that you are getting in the NBA, first and foremost, Rob Pelinka said it, communication is key in order to get them to work as a team on the court and to have a cohesive locker room. You've got to understand the personalities and the egos that are all meshing together. And it is different because, these guys now are so much more than just basketball players. They've got their own brands and their own, empires they're all building. And so JJ, to earn the respect of them, I think is going to have to come across as a real human first and foremost. And so I know it might sound a little like cliche here, but being able to let loose in a presser where the world's watching is kind of a refreshing sign for someone we've seen on the biggest stage in broadcast be that, perfect polished human, right?
So how do you think that's going to translate when we get in October? Because you mentioned his demeanor, and with his podcast, he's very known to have his guests this. I think speak differently when compared to other media interviews. So, do you think that will translate to other players on the court? And do you think there'll be a patience in terms of really giving this, this process a chance and not being reactive if the team struggles early?
I think, oh, well, in LA, any 10 game, any couple game losing streak, it could even be the Dodgers in the midst of 162 games, right? Like there will be reaction no matter what the foundation is showing with how the team is playing. But JJ made it very clear he wants to see this team just get better each and every day. And if they take that approach, then by April, they can be in championship contention, right? And so I think what you'll see in terms of the locker room reaction is the team will go if, and I mean, assuming LeBron James is in that locker room, if and how LeBron and AD, buy in to what JJ is putting down. And it seems like very intuitive that JJ might have been in LeBron's favor prior to heading into this coaching I guess I don't want to say audition, coaching interview process. So I would be inclined to think that he will come in with the respect of Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and they're in their seasoned experience. I think they'll understand that even if they come out to a losing start, they could be building something bigger and better.
Nikki, I totally agree with that. How do you see the Lakers offseason going? Do you see it being a fairly quiet, hold pat kind of offseason? Do you think there are big things that we don't see coming? What is just your general sense of what the Lakers' plans may be and what this offseason may look like?
Listen, it is unpredictable. And I think it depends on what the rest of the league kind of does in terms of the dominoes that are about to fall in these next couple of days. You talk about the biggest one being Paul George, and then where's Chris Paul going to go? What will that mean for Klay Thompson? And what will that mean for the rest of the West? Oklahoma City already making moves. If they shore up their front court, could they be the favorites to challenge Denver in the West? What are the Lakers going to do, right? And I know last season, right before the start of training camp, we were saying on air how this was the most excited Lakers fans have felt in a couple of years because it was the most continuation, bringing over of personnel from a exciting Western Conference Finals that run the year before. And so there was so much excitement heading into last season's training camp. The season unfolded differently. So who knows what this front office will figure out in its approach. And I'm sure now having JJ in place is kind of the first step. But then also you got to see what the other movement happens around the league.
So, in your mind, where's the best path for this team moving forward? Is it with LeBron and Anthony Davis, or is it just a complete rebuild and just trying to acquire assets through the draft? And it might be a longer process, but I think Los Angeles, they're known as getting superstars and wanting to win immediately. So, in your mind, there's been a lot of conjecture as to the future of LeBron, this the future of the nucleus of this team. What do you think is best for the squad moving forward for kind of its long-term future?
Listen, I think anytime you have the names LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your roster, you are in contention. But the rest of the pieces around these two mega stars have to be correct. So I would not go shaking the tree so hard that it's a complete rebuild. And I think anytime you've got the Lakers franchise with names like James and Davis all in the same sentence, you're going to be at the center of very big conversations about what this team can accomplish. So I'm not saying I'm not for anything drastic tear down, and I don't think that's LA's approach to begin with. They do pride themselves on being a franchise that treats stars right and honors what they've contributed to the city. So Listen, I'm excited just as much as you guys might be or might not be, as I know people outside of LA tend to, root against the Lakers. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, I'm excited.
What was the one underrated part of the last season for the Lakers in your mind that happened positively that the fans didn't pick up on or should have gotten more coverage, but that was actually a huge breakthrough? Now I realize that the season ended pretty disappointingly, but you covered this team pretty in depth. So was there anything that you observed that you thought was pretty unique to the last season that will kind of stand out for future seasons in your mind?
Right. I don't know if this is so underrated, so to speak, but the health of Anthony Davis just has to be emphasized and celebrated. What we saw him accomplish last season, and obviously, critics can look at that and say, "Well, look what the team accomplished with a healthy AD and LeBron James." But I just think that that is something that is, hopefully continuing in the right direction, and we get more of that next season. I thought his approach and what he was delivering night in and night out was absolutely spectacular, which unfortunately the results of the season do not reflect.
So I want to shift gears and I want to ask you about the Sparks on the WNBA. Huge just season in terms, lots of storylines in terms of surprise teams like the Lynx to the rookie class. But focusing on the Sparks, before we go to Cameron Brink's injury, I want to focus on just her in the draft and just her first couple of days as just a member of the Sparks. Can you kind of give just kind of behind the scenes in terms of it seems like she was really excited just to join this team, just like the excitement for the Sparks, kind of new life into this franchise. He kind of walk us through kind of the first few games for Brink and how that process went in terms of her becoming a new member of that team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Cameron Brink, Rakia Jackson, the Sparks
Yeah.
having two top four picks in this year's draft. There was a lot of buzz. But then when you saw Cameron Brink called by LA, and then just the way she carried herself as a rookie through training camp, the first couple of games in LA, there's a star power about her and a marketability that is so important in today's day and age with athletes, right? When you talk about the brands and what is going to get fans engaged and tuning in, Cam has it. And I think Rakia has it too. And I know Rakia has it too. And I just can't tell you, watching them go to Clippers games, watching them throw first pitches at Dodger Stadium, them being posted all over social media from MLB to, the Dodgers, everyone, the buzz is there. And then even being in the building, right? The Sparks first two games were played at Long Beach State, which is about a 40-minute drive without traffic from crypto.com arena. In game one of the season, Kim Kardashian is sitting baseline in Long Beach State. Magic Johnson is on the other side of the basketball stanchion. And it's like, what is this world? I mean, the eyes are on this team, and the buzz continued past those, opening games and into crypto when Caitlin Clark came to town. 19,000 people filled that arena, record setting. And then even after Caitlin Clark left, when the Las Vegas Aces came and the Sparks ended up upsetting them a couple of weeks ago, that game was electric. And it was sold out for the Sparks capacity, which is, I think, at about 13,000. But the buzz around this team has been building and growing. And I think people are riding the wave of what has been perceived as Caitlin Clark hype, but from the authentic WNBA fans, or I don't want to say authentic, but from the fans of the W who have been, watching for years and years, to now everyone who's coming and tuning into these games, they're finding that the quality of the product is awesome, and it's so fun. So all that to say, this rookie class, from Caitlin Clark to Angel Reese to Cameron Brink to Rakia Jackson, has been living up to the hype, and it's been really cool to have a first row seat to that.
Yeah, this rookie class just seems so ready for the moment.
Yep.
It's been cool to see. Wanted to ask you just a little bit of kind of I guess like a profile of the Sparks fan base, because this is one of those legendary WNBA franchises. Of course, Lisa Leslie played for the Spark. Can you give us just like a snapshot of what that fan base has been like in the scheme of the WNBA in the history of that league?
Absolutely. And so this is my second season with the team, but I've known before being their sideline reporter that the Sparks games are a party. You go in there and people have the vibes right, like, and so it's relaxed, but it's incredibly intelligent basketball fans. I mean, all you have to do is look courtside to see Leslie Jones with her season tickets there every game. She's on her feet. She's trash talking the other team. She's wearing bedazzled purple, gold, and with I forget what the third color is on the Sparks. I forget the actual Pantone, but she's vibrant, she's enthusiastic, she's gritty, and I think that's kind of what this fan base is they're used to the razzle dazzle and winning, and names like Lisa Leslie, Nneka Ogwumike, Candace Parker. They're used to the stars, but they are also want to see this team win. So I think the expectations and excitement that come with knowing this team is really, truly building something new. The fans are feeding into what the franchise is putting forth.
So where do you see kind of the future going in terms of the WNBA, in terms of kind of it being more prosperous? The league is expanding to the two more teams in the future. Ratings continue to go up. I think that this year's edition of the All-Star Game is going to be a lot better than the NBA's for sure. Where do you kind of see the league in the next few years in terms of taking advantage of this momentum that they have currently?
I hope that they are viewing the wave that, and I don't hope. I've heard Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner, talk about it. I've heard the players talk about it. They all seem to have the right perspective when it comes to this new wave of attention. From the outside, there's the uneducated talking about how the veterans are resenting the rookies, and that couldn't be further from the truth. The veterans are celebrating and saying, thank goodness that all this hard work we've been laying out, this foundation we've been laying, starting, even before the Wubble, which was where they really wanted to start capitalizing on who they were as athletes and as people, and their causes and their, caliber of competition. There's so much more. And I think that some of the vets I've spoken to have been like, we welcome this class and the energy around them with open arms, because it's like, thank God relief or your reinforcements have come, right? And so all that being said, I think that the league is primed to ride the wave and to continue the hype. And I also think that the quality of athleticism and what you're watching in games speaks for itself, right? So like, I could walk in and see my sister, who has never watched a women's basketball game in her life, tuned into the women's college Final Four this year. And then randomly, I've seen her watching WNBA games, and she knows players. And it's like, she's found that games are close and good and exciting, and the drama's there. And I think as social media also plays a role, and as we as media members play a role in sharing the stories, it's like, yes, that's Dearica Hamby. She's a mother of two, and 2 months after she gave birth, she was on the court, and look what she's done. It's like, that's reason to buy in. And I think the storytelling is going to be pivotal moving forward to continue the excitement and get us drawn to names that are obviously not just Caitlin Clark, right? So I think there's a substantial foundation in a long-winded way of saying that the W isn't going to let the moment pass them by.
Nikki, this has been a fantastic chat. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Can you please let our audience know where they can find you on social media and any other projects you're working on as well?
First of all, I truly celebrate everything you guys are doing. It's clearly a celebration of all things basketball and the culture around it. So thank you so much for having me on. Always happy to join. My Instagram handle is lil.nikki.k, so Lil Nikki K, and my Twitter handle is Nikki, or X handle, sorry, is Nikki K SN1. But please engage with me. And I'm also trying to be more present on TikTok, sharing the stories of the W. So it's the same as my Instagram handle, Lil Nikki K. But yeah, I really love what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki, very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.